May the Lord be gracious unto you, and may the Lord cause his face to shine upon you, and may he give you peace. Jesus declares that the peace that I give is not the peace that the world gives. Two types of peace. Peace that is given by the world, and peace that is given only by God. Peace that only politicians can offer, and peace that only God can offer. And Jesus compares the two, and he says, the one that I give is unlike the one that you get from the world. Things that we get, blessings that we receive, favor that we access from heaven is always the best. We are on mentorship. And the reason why I believe mentorship has been put in place by God, it is so that peace can be guaranteed. You are only as safe as far as mentorship is concerned. Outside of mentorship, there is no safety. Mentorship is an assurance that you won't make mistakes, and even if you make mistakes, you have to survive them. Mentorship is a peace strategy. God wants you to have peace. Why I'm focusing on friendships and relationships under mentorship, it is because most of the stress that you carry in your body is the creation of wrong relationships. What I mean by that is the pressure, the depression, disappointments and discouragements that you're undergoing now are products of wrong connections. You've had a wrong person walk into your life. And problems have just found an incubator in the name of a friend. And they are harboring spirits. Friendship is very critical. Paul deals with that. A man who had an encounter with the Lord Jesus himself, and he saw the Lord given an assignment to open the eyes of the blind. He does that. How does he open the eyes of the blind? by the preaching of the Word of God and by the writings. And he wrote a letter to believers in Corinth in 1 Corinthians chapter 15 and verse 33. And he tells them that, be not deceived. Be not deceived. Evil communications corrupt good manners. Evil communications corrupt good manners. You have in that same verse two things which are completely opposite of each other. There is evil and there is good within the same line. But then he tells us that the evil part will always corrupt the good part. And then he starts by letting us know that we should never be deceived in this area. When the two meet, it is always evil that will prevail over the good. That's what he's talking about. And he's not saying every evil. No. He's saying evil communications. If it is an evil communication, it will definitely never be deceived. It will definitely, or it will eventually corrupt the good manners. But he starts by saying, be not deceived. Mentee, my protege, hear me on this one. It is possible to overcome deception. You can overcome deception. And I want you to be sure about that. Be convinced in your heart and in your spirit. Be convinced in your soul. Be convinced in your mind. That you can overcome deception. How? Expose yourself to knowledge. Knowledge in the areas that you don't want to be deceived. Any other area where you are void of information, you are then prone to deception. You don't resist deception. You don't deny deception. You don't act undeceived. You have to access information. Equip yourself with necessary information in the area where you don't want to be deceived. Any other area outside of information, you are deceived. Do not be deceived. Evil communications corrupt good manners. So I am teaching you on communications, evil communications. Why? Because the word communication there means companionship. Interactions, as long as their friendship is evil. that will contaminate the good manners. You can't have a bad friend and remain good. Then what is the basis of that relationship? I want you to follow this very, very carefully, because I'm occupying a position in your life that is very critical. Jesus said something in the book of John, chapter number 10, verse number 5. And a stranger will they not follow? Talking about the sheep and the shepherd. And a stranger will they not follow, but will flee from him. They will not follow a stranger, but they will flee from him. Not wait, not just ignore a stranger, but they will flee. Move themselves away from a stranger. For they know not the voice of strangers. They know not the voice of strangers. No, not. No, not. Knowing not the voice of a stranger there means not being acquainted, not being familiar with the voice of a stranger. They are those people in your life who fall under the category of strangers. Doesn't matter you love them. It doesn't matter they are close to you. It doesn't matter they are your neighbors. But they are strangers in the sense that what they believe and what they teach and their understanding is very strange to your revelations and to your information. And what Jesus is saying here is, mine, my own sheep, they will not only ignore, but they will flee from a stranger. Now, he doesn't end there. He gives us something equally important in that same chapter. Verse number 8. Chapter 10, John. All that ever came before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep did not hear them. All that came before me, listen now, he's giving us names of the strangers, their titles, how they function and they operate. He says, those that came before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep did not hear them. They were ignored by the sheep. Being a sheep is going to mean that you'll have people that you need to ignore. You are not a receiver of every information. You are not a place, you are not the person that every person out there would want to experiment on your intelligence, and you are not that person that people can just come in and then they drop their opinions and their advice just so that they will know whether the advice works or not. You are not that kind of a person. There are many voices out there that needs to be ignored if you are ever going to be successful in life. The voice of a stranger deserves to be ignored. And ignoring the voice of a stranger is not even enough. Distance yourself. Move away from the waves of his voice. Stay away until you can't hear the voice of a stranger anymore. The thieves and the robbers, they came, but the sheep did not hear them. They did not pay attention to the voices of the strangers. Whose voice in your life have you chosen to ignore? It's not enough to have people that you listen to. You need to also know the people that you have decided to ignore. Who are those people? Is it some guy on the internet attacking you? Is it somebody at your workplace undermining your gift and your input into the organization? Does the person really matter? Is he ever going to be involved in your promotion? Is he the voice that you must listen to? Any description of you by somebody, is that somebody in a position to even describe you? Does it matter what they think about you? Does it matter? Who are they? If they can't bless you, then they can't curse you. Whose voice are you supposed to ignore? And whose report are you going to believe? You can have your grandfather, your grandfather placing a case upon you. And then you have somebody who is more mature spiritually, a man of God who comes into your life and he releases and he breaks every chain and he says completely different statements over you and he blesses you. Whose report shall you believe? There must be certain statements uttered by people in your life that ceases to matter from tonight, because those are voices, those are words of strangers. Who is a stranger? Who is the person that you're going to ignore from tonight? Ignoring the person it doesn't mean that when he says good morning, you won't respond. No, I'm talking about evil communications. When the communication is based on an evil foundation, you have not only to ignore, but you have to flee. How are you going to escape evil communications? Child of God, not everything that is being said about you is important. Most of it is simply rubbish. Most of it. Majority of the statements and the opinions of people of you. People are not gifted enough to articulate your character. They don't know why you acted the way you acted. Had they been in the same position, they would have made the worst decision. They accuse you, they judge you, they condemn you simply because of a wrong move. One wrong move. They will say all sorts of things. You packing your bags and leaving the husband, they will quote every scripture against you and against that decision. Why? Because when things were happening, they were happening behind the closed doors. They were not part of the processes that were taking place that led to that decision. They judge you based on the conclusion They judge you based on the decision that you had to make just so that you would save your life. Why? Because they are blind to several other things that led to that decision. So I'm trying to help somebody right now who has been abandoned. You have been thrown away out of the company, out of the circle. You no longer belong there. Why? Because of one thing that you did and you were condemned. But did you really lose friends? Did you lose a friend? Who told you she was a friend? Who told you he was a friend? So I understand what some people are going through. This is why we have to address some of these issues here. You see, the sheep will hear my voice. Jesus calls himself the Good Shepherd. Jesus declares that my sheep hears my voice. Evil communications. In the book of 2 Samuel, chapter number 13, you hear of a story. There is a boy there by the name Amnon. And this boy looked at his sister Tamar, and he lusted after her. And the Bible declares that because Tamar was a virgin, and Amnon really desired to sleep with her, but he lacked a strategy. And then the Bible tells us that in verse number 3, that Amnon had a friend. Friendship. Amnon had a friend whose name was Jonadab. The son of Shimei, David's brother. And Jonadab was a very subtle man. Very subtle. Very subtle. Very subtle man. Very. That's in the Bible. Very subtle man. And that man that was subtle was somebody's friend. What made these people to become friends in the first place? I'll come to that. And then he came to his friend Amnon, and he said to Amnon, Amnon, how come you're becoming thin these days? You're not happy. You're the son of a king. What is it that you desire and you can't get? And Amnon opened up to his very subtle friend, and he said, my desire right now is not even to buy a new horse. I don't desire a brand new chariot. I don't desire a piece of land. I don't desire to get into real estate. I don't desire anything right now. One thing that matters to me, if I can only sleep with my sister Tamar. I think I would be the happiest man. And then the friend who was very sad, I would say to him, just become sick. It's very easy. Become sick. Get sick, my friend, today. Let them call the ambulance, get into the hospital, get into a coma. And don't recover until Tama comes. But I can tell you as a friend, the first one to visit you is your father because he cares for you. He will come. And when your father comes, you tell him, I would love to have my sister come to me. Let her prepare some food for me, meat for me. I would want it prepared by my sister, not everyone else, not any other person. I prefer my sister Tama. Let her come and prepare food for me. And then you tell him, your father, that you'd love to eat from the hands of Tama. Very strange. What kind of a disease is that? You choose people that you want to cook for you. Very strange. And then exactly as planned, that's what happened. David came. What's wrong, my son? He said, I'm sick. My father, I'm dying. But let Tama come and prepare some food for me. And then David, it was David, because he was ignorant of the strategy. He went and he said, Tama, your brother is sick. And he's inviting you to come. He wants you to come and prepare and feed him. The friend was so cunning, he made every other person to be involved in this calm. That's his level of subtlety. Even the father participated. It was the father who went and called the sister, Tamar, sister to Amnon. How was she going to say no, having your father advising you to go and feed your brother? How do you say no? So he was made to participate by this wicked friend. You have got friends right now, some of you listening to me, that will mess up everyone around you, including your mother, including your father. A friend. Jonadab was very wicked. And here comes Tamar. And when she came, in the process, she got raped by Amnon. Now think about this for a moment. Amnon, all he has is lust. And what he doesn't have is a strategy on the execution of the lust. He doesn't know what to do with the lust. But then here comes a friend who was specially reserved for that moment. When the worst is about to come out of you, when wickedness, when evil is about to manifest, but you don't know how. That's where now the devil brings in people in your life who always bring the worst out of you. You want to sin, but you don't know how. You want to insult your pastor, but you don't know how. That is where Jonadab comes in. You want to leave your ministry. You want to make a wrong decision. That is where Jonadab comes in. Do not be deceived. Wrong communication will obviously corrupt good manners. Can you imagine? You say the devil, if only he can get somebody wrong to be part of your life, the game is over. There is coming a time when you are going to make a wrong decision. But the devil knows that when the time arrives, you may not make that wrong decision unless you have a wrong friend. There is always a person who is a wrong person in your life, waiting for the day that you would want to make a wrong decision and you want an encouragement, and the person will show up. Had Jonadab said to Amnon, Amnon, what is it that you're saying? Are you okay? Are you normal? What is wrong with you? Tamar, your sister, how is that possible? My friend, let's go to some priest somewhere. Get some prayers. You need help. Your sister, that's your own flesh. You have a problem. But you know what? He said, I will help you get what you want. No matter how bad it is, no matter how wicked it is, I'm your friend. So, trying to reverse the process now, we are going back to the place where the relationship originally started from. There is a place. How did such a relationship got conceived in the first place? That's where most of you are having problems. The origin of a relationship must not be mysterious, I repeat. It must not be mysterious. It has to be explained. If the start of a relationship cannot be explained, then it means even the end of that same relationship, you won't be able to explain it. It has to be intentional. The beginning of a worthwhile relationship, it has to be deliberate. You have to initiate the relationship. Let's start a relationship from here. But you see the problem, when people are looking for friends, it's not them looking for friends. It is their weaknesses, the weaknesses in them, that goes out to look for friends. This guy had a weakness, and he looked, the weakness, it was the weakness in him that looked for a friend who would support it. Weaknesses in people, I repeat that part, it is the weaknesses in people that look for friends. And people who find friends who are not necessarily their friends, but they are friends to their weaknesses. That is why if you don't support their weaknesses, they will reject you. They will not have you as their friends. Because it is their weaknesses looking for a friend. That is why those who are into beer, they get friends who drink beer. Those who are into womanizing, they also get friends who are into womanizing. So it is simply their weaknesses that are looking for friendship, not them, not their strengths. It is their weaknesses. In this case, not just weakness like lack of knowledge. No, I'm talking about weaknesses as in evil deeds and evil characters and manners and behaviors in them. They have weaknesses that they have stopped trying to correct. Now they don't know what to do anymore, but to get somebody who can support them. Have you noticed that when you're about to make a wrong decision, you have got people in your life right now that you don't even ask? Because already you can almost tell they are never going to agree to that. You can tell. So you never even attempt, you don't even approach them with certain problems because you know they are never going to support you. Taking that path, they will never support you. You know that. And what you do, you go to somebody whose advice you can almost tell, you can also tell that this one, if it's about resigning from work, if it's about divorcing, you have got friends that you know that will support you in that area because you chose them. It was the weakness in you that chose them for that very critical moment where the devil knew at some point you would make a wrong decision, and at that point you would need support from a friend. And that person waits in your life for 5 years till the day you want to make a wrong decision. One simple encouragement from them, and then you move on. You make a step. Wrong step. This is what is happening to most people, even as sons. There are sons like that when they choose fathers. They choose fathers who are as weak as they are. They choose fathers who never rebuke them in certain areas because they know their fathers, spiritual fathers and even mentors are affected and they are victims of those same weaknesses. Because they don't want to keep on being bombarded in those areas, so they look for people who are defeated in those same areas. But then I don't understand. How are you going to then live a victorious life when you look for a failure to mentor you in the areas that you are failing? What a waste of relationship. What a waste of time. What a waste of resources. You need somebody that you fear. You need somebody that you know if he hears that I did this, I'm in trouble. He must be somebody who conquered those areas that you are being defeated every day. Don't let your weakness choose a friend. Don't let the evil in you choose a friend. Don't let the wickedness in you choose a friend. Jonadab was very subtle. The same word used for the serpent in the garden. Very subtle. Very subtle. Is there the voice of a stranger in your life? Fathers, if you are listening to me, take this message seriously. There will come a time when your son pay more attention to the voice of a stranger and ignore your voice. Mother, your daughter, at some point, is going to believe a stranger, and she will walk away from your advice. She will look at you in the face and say, Mama, you don't understand. And at that point, there is nothing you can do. You watch your daughter walking straight into the jaws of an alligator, and you know she's gone. You say everything that you know to say. You may scream all you want, but she will keep walking away from you. There is a danger in a person's life when she's not aware of her environment. When people walk into sensitive places and they are not aware, places where even angels fear to tread, you watch as people walk in there. With their earphones on, completely ignorant of what would happen to them. There is danger that awaits you when you follow the voice of a stranger. Eve was given one voice to follow. That was the voice of the man. That is why when God gave an instruction of the forbidden tree, God himself did not want to be the voice that speaks to Eve. The information was given to the man. And it was the man who told the woman that God said we must not eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. She heard that not from God, but from the man. Can you imagine that even God himself did not want to become a strange voice? God did not want to interfere with the voice of the man in the life of the woman. God wanted the woman to have one voice. I talk to you, Adam, and then you talk to your wife. God himself respects that protocol. He doesn't want people to have access to too many voices. Too many voices create confusion. Too many voices, too many teachings and sermons from different preachers that will create confusion. You don't know what to follow anymore. Information was given to one man, and that one man would relay information to the woman. But the devil comes in and he violates that protocol. He comes and he talks to the woman directly. And he begins to talk to the woman. Did God say? Did God say? Did God say? And suddenly the woman comes back and Adam is surprised that now she has got information that was never given to her, even by God. He doesn't even remember giving that kind of information to his own wife. And she's coming in, bringing in very strange doctrines, very strange information. Why? There was now the voice of a stranger in the garden. Instead of ignoring the voice of a stranger and fleeing from the stranger, she paid attention to the voice that she was supposed to have ignored. I'm saying this just to let you know that one day your son will come back from school, because you are not the only voice available. Your son will come back from school, and suddenly you will hear a very strange word, cursing word coming out of his mouth. And all of you will stand still and freeze and wonder. Did you just say what? I think I heard you say. Is that you, my son, who said that? Who taught you that? At that time, you will understand. A stranger has entered into the garden, making available certain information which is unedited. Who is the voice that you must ignore? Who, not just whose, who is the voice that you're supposed to ignore? Your husband comes back one day, a completely changed man. His character has changed. When he left, he was a different man, very calm. You were comfortable talking to him, but suddenly he comes back and you wonder what has happened to him. A stranger has spoken. A stranger has spoken. Your wife will come from a counseling session. She will come back from a seminar. She will come back from a conference and her behavior is completely different. And you wonder what has happened to my wife. A stranger has spoken. I would say if your wife is getting counseling, be present. When your husband is getting counseling, be present. Of course, you can't be there every time, but where you can be, if it's an official counseling session, we have to be present. There is information that he will get which is completely wrong. You will be trained by certain strangers to treat you in a certain way, and your life will become miserable. You are not the person that is being discussed in your absence. You are not that kind of a person. You don't deserve that kind of a treatment. You don't deserve to be butchered and to be beaten up just for you to become better. Your life cannot be improved by that. You are not that kind of a, but he will come back one day under the influence of a stranger. And the way that he will begin to treat you from that day will be different. The voice of a stranger. What kind of a friend do you have? When your emotions are high and you don't know what to do, you don't know what to say, who do you call? Whose voice matters to you at that point? Who is your friend? And who is your stranger? You want to fly. You want your life to improve. You want to become better. Have you noticed that in your life there are people that when they speak, you are inspired? There are those people that when they speak, they have a way of calming the raging seas. All the anger goes away when they speak. But there are those that when they speak, a warrior in you jumps out. You feel like you'd want to wipe away the whole earth. Who is that voice that brings the worst out of you? And who is the voice that brings the best out of you? Identify a stranger tonight and flee. I love you so much. Have a good night.